My dear friend, by the time this letter reaches you, I shall be gone. The seasons changed, and I will be at the hands of God and the mercy of the Lord of Raven Castle, my enemy. You must flee beyond their reach and build a strong castle. If ever you return, do so not as a wanderer, but as a noble knight. Signed, your dear friend, Lord Fox. Hello and welcome to this episode of Dragonspire Castle. This is a short survival episode which I will be using the Conquest Reforged and the Conquest Recipes, which is a survival based mod pack which I can use the Conquest Reforged, which has over 14,000 blocks, and I can use them in survival. Additionally, I will also be using the Fallen Trees mod and the Tectonic mod, which is a world generation mod, which is why all these mountains and the trees and everything else look so nice. First, I'm gonna need some wood so I can actually make my tools and my foundations for my build. The wooden logs and the wooden planks I gathered from the trees, I'm gonna use them into my stone cutter. The stone cutter is used to access all of the 14,000 conquest blocks, so I can actually use them into survival. Like you can see, there's a lot of blocks that I can use, for example beams and more wood and more wood. There's so many options. I don't even know how many times I have to look at this because it is a lot. And I'm gonna be using a lot of stone for my foundation. So the stone I will be implementing will be then changed into the stone cutter so I can make it into limestone for my foundations. So I'm gonna get a few masonry limestone and then put them down into a nice rectangle. Destroy these so I can make the foundation a bit bigger, and then I'm gonna add a little hole with the arches that also come into the conquest pack. These arches are really fun because it makes everything look round and quite nice. For the actual floors of the house, I'm gonna use pine wood planks. I just like them because they are just lighter than the normal spruce variants, and I can also use these ones in the conquest pack because I can use the actual stone cutter. After finishing my foundations, I decided to go and explore my surroundings. I wanted to have a few more cobblestone and some more coal so I can actually start working on my frames. I decided to go to the nearby rivers and collect some sand so I can maybe later turn them into glass, or I can make them into tutoring. The tutoring that I'll be using for the side frames, but that requires gravel, sand and bone meal for the coloring. After getting the sand, I decided to venture a little bit more into the forest. I found a few caves, a few more trees, and most importantly, an enemy. Oh man, let's see what's in these caves. Oh, I don't even have anything, man. Oh, let me see, I got a torch, and I got a pickaxe. Yes, we need this. Luckily, it was only one enemy, and I just killed him with my pickaxe because I didn't have any other tools. I simply wasn't prepared enough. After killing the enemy, I decided to venture more into this cave and seeing what was all about it. I wanted to have more stone, more coal, and most importantly, I just wanted to know what was in my surroundings, so I knew of the potential dangers or risk that came into this region. So once I got all of my torches, I decided to venture more into this cave. I found a wonderful cave with a lot of dripstone. It was a beautiful cave, and I decided to just explore it a little bit more. At day 2, I decided to finish up my cellar. I grabbed all the stone that I have found in the caves and I turned them into limestone, so I could finish up the cellar. What also is interesting about this mod is that I got half slabs, so that means it works the same as in snow. I could just place blocks upon and make every detail matter. This is very cool because that means that I can put a lot of detail into my builds, as you can see right here. After finishing up the cellar stairs, I decided that I needed more wood, so I could finish up the foundations and potentially get more wood for the walls that I wanted to have in my house, and finish my stairs. Then I decided to make my arches, so my cellar had a lot of support. These arches are made out of limestone and are in a barrel vaulted ceiling. That means that the whole ceiling is an arch, a barrel vault. As you can see right there. I had a lot of enjoyment out of making them, because this means that my ceiling is actually a vault, which comes with the Conquest Reforged pack. Which to me is a very fun way of making these kinds of ceilings, especially for cellars, to keep my food cool. I needed a big cellar like this, so I could keep my food cool, as I transform my village into a huge farming community, with lots of farms, food, establishment and of course feasts. This was very important for the king. Of course, huge barrels of wine, crops and barrels of potatoes will be stored in here. It's gonna be looking awesome. After finishing up my cellars to store my food, I decided to make the tutoring. With the sand that I gathered and the gravel and the bone meal that I collected from my dear enemies, I made the tutoring. I was really happy about the results. The wood and the tutoring made a nice contrast of my house, especially for the beginning area. I decided to go back into my house and then finish up what I needed to do, therefore crafted more beams so I could support my roof. First I went back to my stone cutter and made a lot of beams from my tarred wooden planks that I got from the forest, which I recently been. I also wanted to add more detail to my tutoring. Therefore I made a lot of tiny lintels which came from the Conquest pack to add a little bit of extra depth into my build. This means that you can see the beautiful tutoring together with the beams and the lintels that are all around the build. Of course, for these kinds of things you need quite a lot of lintels, but don't worry, I had a lot of trees cut. The forest was looking a bit bald then. Then I decided to implement a fireplace so that I could roast food and cook. On the next day I decided to make my interior walls, making them out of wood and finishing them up with beams, so that all of the wood that is coming on top of it for the next floor is fully supported. Although this will take quite a while, it was actually a very satisfying process, seeing all the beams supporting my roof. It adds just such a nice detail to see that your ceilings are being supported by these beams. I also want to start with farming, so that I have had enough food to make my new kingdom. I started first with potatoes, but later on I will get more seeds, such as wheat, beets and more. At day 4 I wanted to finish up my roof, so that I no longer had leaks in the rain. After a few terrible nights and a few more rains, I needed to finish that ASAP. I made my roofs out of wooden beams, because I didn't have hay yet, so I couldn't make my thatched roofs yet. So this was a good solution towards my problem. I also implemented a lot of beams, so that my wooden structure is fully supported, so that it wouldn't fall apart. Although this is a slow process, it means that my structure is fully solid. After getting more trees and more wood, I finally finished up the roof. I then made another fence so that I could keep the animals out of my farms, and I acquired some extra seeds so that I could start my thatching process very soon. Oh man, it looks so good. The house looked incredible. It was a wonderful start towards my wonderful village. After a whole day of working, finishing up my build, I finally was done with it. And I decided to go back to the woods and gather more resources to build my next castle or a house and expand my little town of Dragonspire.